So one way you can think about building the polyominoes is you start with a board game piece on a single square in a grid, and then that piece can move orthogonally in any direction, and you get 1 domino, 2 trominos, 5 tetrominos, and 12 pentominoes, and then we'll stop there because the pentominoes are already perfect. And they make a great set for doing puzzles with. It's right in that sweet spot, like between about 9 and 15 pieces that you can do puzzles manually with. Now, instead of moving just orthogonally, we can also add in diagonal moves, and now we get this new set. And we need a name for this, and since we already have a piece that moves both diagonally and orthogonally in chess, and we call it a king, we'll call them polykings. And you notice that this set goes straight from 5 tritings to 22 tetrakings, and that's unfortunate because we just skipped right past that sweet spot. But if we look more carefully at the polykings, we can notice that they divide into certain subsets. There's the actual polyominoes on the left that we had before, and then there's these sort of expanded and dilated and rotated versions of the polyominoes on the right. And then in the middle there are pieces that require both kinds of moves, and we can think of these as proper polykings. And there are 12 of those, so that's great. We're back into our sweet spot of good things to tile with. But we need a scheme for naming these things that is simple and extensible, because we're going to have more connections just a slide away from now. And so we use a couple of names of chess pieces from historical variants. We can use their initials, W for Wazir, which is a piece that can go 1 in any orthogonal direction, and F for Fairs, which is a piece that can go in any diagonal direction. And now we have poly W ominoes, poly F ominoes, and the proper poly W F ominoes, which is that set of 12. And they're all subsets of the poly W F ominoes. And we notice that the monomino is part of both of the sets of the poly W and poly F, because if you haven't moved anywhere, you can move either way. And expanding further, these initials come from a system that's used by Ralph Betze, who was a designer of chess variants and had a notation for chess pieces, which is really complicated, and this is just a simple version. The W for Wazir and the F we just did. The Baba move is moving 2 move spaces orthogonally, and the Alfio move moves 2 spaces diagonally. And there's a third ring that has their own initials, and we won't get to that. So here's something that you can do with those proper tetra WF ominoes. This is a cube with 3 faces in the front of the cube, and you can't actually do a 6 by 8 rectangle with them because there's a checkerboard parity issue, which is another thing that I can't really talk about. But we can also do things with these proper 4 or tetra WFD ominoes, so that has the Dababa move and the other moves. And these have an area of 36, so if the parity works out nicely, we can do a 6 by 6 square tiling. And it turns out that it does work out nicely. And there is a tiling, and that might look a little bit unsatisfying because there are all these monomino and domino bits, and we don't know which ones go with which. And that's what it looked like when I fed it into the solver. But it turns out we can actually do something with this. If we take that red domino, we look at it and say there's no, the W move is interior. There's no F moves we can get to from there. And of all the D moves we can take from there, the Dababa moves, there's only one that gets a further Fairs move from there. So we get that piece. And then that has taken a few of the pieces out of consideration. So we can, the bits out of consideration, so we can get to this piece. And logically, it sort of moves like a Sudoku that you can get one piece and the next from there. And we get, finally, this full full set. And I have one final thing to show you. This is a 10 by 10 square that has all 5 of the tetrominoes that are exploded in each of the 5 different ways using these 5 pieces. And so like the knights are a little bit different than actual poly knights, because those you could use all 8 directions. Here we're restricted to using just 4 directions, but we can use either way being skewed. And that's all I have. Thank you for listening to my talk and putting up with my technical issues.